Good Saturday morning to you, everybody. Thank you for being here. If you want to follow along, we'll start in the 34th chapter of the book of Genesis this morning and look at a passage of Scripture that is uncomfortable. There's no other way to say it. It's not pleasant to deal with. This is now Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she had borne to Jacob, went out to see the women of the land. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, the prince of the land, saw her, he seized her and laid with her and humiliated her. And his soul was drawn to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. He loved the young woman and spoke tenderly to her. So Shechem spoke to his father Hamor, saying, "Get me this girl for my wife." There is no nice way to put it. Shechem rapes Dinah. It's just that simple. Me say that that does not mean, because it is recorded in Scripture, that God condones it. In fact, just the opposite. The reason this and other events, there are there are events of homosexuality, idolatry, people with multiple wives recorded in Scripture. That does not mean that God is condoning those activities. God is showing us those activities, the consequences of those activities, so that we learn from those mistakes. And so this in no way condones what went on here. Again, it is given to us as a lesson. It's a very difficult chapter. There's more to come in this chapter. There are several different things that happen here, but in this tragedy, there are again, I believe, a few lessons that we can learn from. And we will. The first thing I want to point out to you will actually be fleshed out even more as we move through this story, through this chapter, and that is the danger of sin. Sin always brings trouble. There is no such thing as small sin. We talk about, sometimes we use the phrase little white lies. Yeah, there's no such thing as a small sin. Sin has consequence. When you go against the commands of God, when you go against the laws of God, it has consequences. And every decision we make matters. Sometimes little small decisions turn into big things, but every decision matters. Now, next thing as I look at this story that I notice is we see a young man who is guided by his emotions. He is guided by his desire. And our emotions, our desire, friends, I will tell you, even our conscience. Some people think, the conscience is all we need to follow. The Bible talks about having a seared conscience. You can keep doing wrong for so long that eventually your conscience just kind of says, "I'm tired of telling him. He's going to go do what he wants to do." And he sees this woman. He thinks she's beautiful, and so he goes after her. Then he obviously has some strong feelings here. He sees her, thinks she's pretty, but our emotions, our desires, even if our conscience doesn't speak up and say don't do it, we guide our life by the principles of God's Word, not by our feelings, not by our emotions, not by our conscience. All those things are important. And I would say, as a general rule, most people's conscience, most people's feelings do a pretty good job. But I think everyone here this morning is wise enough to know that sometimes our conscience, sometimes our feelings, sometimes our emotions miss it. They leave us high and dry and get us in trouble. And so Shechem here, he's being guided by emotion. He's being guided by feelings, and he's letting those things guide him instead of the principles of right and wrong. He lets those things guide his life. Then notice after that happens, after he seizes her, lays with her, humiliates her. Then in verse 3 he says, "Then his soul was drawn to Dinah, and he loved the woman and spoke tenderly to her." I don't know how many children you've been around, but many times children seem to think that "I'm sorry" is some magic wand. My grandbabies, all four of them, they especially the younger ones, I did it on accident. Well, you may have, but the eggs are still in the floor, or the window still broke. Your cousin's bleeding, whatever. I did it on accident. I'm sorry. If I hit you in the head with a hammer and then I turn around and say I'm sorry, your head doesn't suddenly quit hurting or quit bleeding, or all of a sudden you don't need stitches. And so he thinks, well, I'll go and I'll speak nice to her. And even to the point where he says, "Go get her for my wife." Again, it's like he says, "Well, I can cover up this horrible deed that I did by marrying her." Well, she's never going to forget that. Marrying her isn't going to change the fact that in verse 2 it says he humiliated her, and nothing's going to change that. And so as we walk through this story and we see these opening verses here, just a reminder for us of being, again, very careful in our decision making. Again, I remember my mother telling me years ago, you can drive a nail in a piece of wood. You can go back and pull the nail out, but there's still a hole there. I heard another story, supposedly a true story, of a young man who lived just very, very wild, very crazy life. And one day he was in his mother's room and saw on her closet door that she had the door was just covered in roofing tacks that she had drove in. And she's, "Mom, what is this? What are all these nails doing in your door?" And he said, "Every time you break my heart, I drive a nail in that door. And this is all the times you've broken my heart." And the son was just devastated. And so he makes promises and amends to do better, and she changes, and they make an agreement that every time he blesses her, every time he does something that that brings her pride, makes her happy, she'll pull out a nail, to the point where eventually she did have all the nails pulled out. And the son came one day and said, "Mama got all those nails out. Let's patch the door." And she looked at him and says, "No," I said, "The nails are all gone, but the scars are still in my heart. We're not going to patch those holes. You speak tenderly. You try to sin hurts you, hurts others, and no amount of kind words, no amount of whose accident takes away the guilt, the consequences of our decisions." And we have to keep that in mind in the choices that we make. You think about that. Have a great day. We'll see you here tomorrow morning.